your aging loved one fell, fractured their femur. They did it on a work site. They're still an active aging adult, helping other seniors, and they have surgery. They go into the nursing home. They have rehab, and the discharge instructions come up, and you feel, okay, everything sounds fine. Maybe we'll get home health. And so everything seems to be fine. They discharge home, they fall, and where do you go from there? What went wrong? What details are missing? What is the read between the lines, or what you may not know to ask? And that's so fortunately we were involved in this situation. So stay tuned. We're going to talk about that and how you can be proactive in making sure that you're done everything that you can to make sure a discharge from a nursing home back home is as smooth and safe as possible. But before we do that, we are going to mention that our podcast, Healthcare Redefined, advocating for aging adults and their loved ones, season 2 is live. Last Monday, we opened back up for season 2. Episode 201 is discharging too soon. And so this week, we're kind of focusing on discharging, whether it's from the hospital, whether it's from the nursing home. And so we're talking about discharging. And so please check out episode 201. It's available on all your major podcast platforms. And it's going to talk about 2 things about discharge. What is AMA? What is discharging against medical advice? What does that mean? What are the consequences? And 2, what if you feel you're being discharged from the hospital too soon? What are your options? How, what can you do to try and figure out or see if there's a possibility you could stay longer, or just what's going on? So stay tuned for that. That's episode 201, and the podcast is Healthcare Redefined. Okay, let's get back to our story. So I'm going to share this story in hopes that some of you can glean some tips and some strategies out of this to be able to assist your aging loved one. So this aging adult, in her late 70s, she was working very part-time, assisting seniors, and she fell while she was working. And so fractured her femur, had the surgery, ended up in a nursing home for rehab. She was non-weight bearing, which means she could not put any weight on that surgical leg. So that's what non-weight bearing means. So you can imagine it's very difficult to be able to get around when you can only use one leg. So the first hurdle that we had to accomplish, or had to jump over, was the fact that everyone thought that this may be a workers' comp case. Now, I did too, and I learned something new from this, that in speaking with an attorney, as well as calling workers' comp myself, just because you fall and you injure yourself at work, if they cannot justify, or if they cannot find an environment, a work environment connection of why you had that injury, doesn't necessarily mean workers' comp. So in this case, she was she was in the kitchen getting ready to wash dishes, and at the meal site, and she didn't have anything in her hands. She was just walking over to the sink. She didn't trip. She didn't have anything in her hand. She didn't lose her balance. Her leg just gave out and she went to the floor. So it ended up not being workers' comp. So that was the first hurdle we had to overcome. So we knew from the get-go that this was not going to be a workers' comp. This was going to have to go through her Medicare and any, co-pays or anything that she was going to be responsible for. Okay, so fast forward in the nursing home, she's getting rehab. She's doing really well. She was an active senior, so rehab's going well. So as we've had our doctor's appointments, we had a little setback, wasn't healing quite properly, so the doctor wasn't going to upgrade or increase her weight bearing status from toe touch. But then we got to 50% weight bearing, so now she could be able to work more with therapy, because she was continuing to make progress and being able to do more things with therapy. Medicare insurance continued to cover her stay at the nursing home. Now, after you get that, 20 days, you get 20 days paid at 100%, but beginning day 21, you have a copay for every day that you are, continuing to stay up to your 100 days. So after 100 days, it's all private pay. So we knew that the fact that her not being weight bearing and eating up her days was going to be huge. So fast forward to the most recent doctor appointment, they were planning on her being discharged, going home. She went to the doctor appointment on the 22nd. And the doctor says, okay, full weight bearing, there's enough healing there, x-rays look good. Well, she discharged home 5 days after she was full weight bearing, so she only had 5 more days. And with the 100 days coming in and so everybody was trying to do the right thing and trying to get her home. But here's where it fell apart. So the doctor said, and I participated in the doctor call. So the doctor said, I really would like her to stay longer. Now that you're full weight bearing, you're normally independent. You normally do not walk with a walker. You're not at your baseline. You're still having to use a walker to walk. I would like you to stay longer and get more rehab at the nursing home. Then we had the conversation with the insurance and the financial part of it. Well, the doctor says, okay, fine. I'll agree to the discharge if we get home health set up. So physical therapy, occupational therapy can come into the home, make sure the home is safe, see if there's any needed equipment that's needed to continue her recovery. If we can get home health in there, we'll be okay. And so I knew that this person lived in a very rural area and home health was a little bit difficult to get covered. So right away after that doctor appointment, first thing, that was on a Thursday, first thing Friday morning, I called the nursing home and spoke to one of the nurses there and shared the information that I had learned from the doctor's appointment and said, the doctor requests home health if she's going to go home in 5 days. And you also, said that you would do a home safety eval because they agreed to that, very early on. And so she said, yes, we're going into a holiday weekend. I'll take care of that. I called the doctor back, had the order put into the computer for home health. I did everything I could to make this happen. So I told our client, I said, when the social worker comes in the room for the discharge instructions and like make sure everything's fine, please call me. I'd like to participate in that. I want to make sure all our ducks in a row. Well, she didn't call and she felt that everything was explained very simply. She thought everything was fine. She felt that she didn't need to bother me and get me involved in that because things seemed to be pretty status quo and pretty, ready to go. But so she didn't call me. So when she got home, I called her or she called me later that evening, let me know that she was home. And I said, well, is home health set up? What's the plan? She says, I don't know. I says, well, what does your discharge instructions say? Pull out your sheet that you got from the discharge from the nursing home. What does that say? And she read it to me and my mouth just dropped. It says, referral made to home health. Not sure that they will have staffing in your area. If they do, they will call you. That was it. That was her discharge instructions. So I was a little upset. And so what I did is I knew there was one chance of a home healthcare agency in her area that was going to be able to staff her. So right away, I had actually called them on Thursday afternoon because I wanted to make sure that they had placed that referral. Come to be that they put the referral for home health into the computer. It shows up in their computer as a pending status, but nobody had looked at it yet. Again, we're going into a holiday weekend. So the nursing home never called to formally make that, just to say, hey, I put a referral into the computer. It might be a difficult one to staff. There was no human communication between the nursing home and the home healthcare agency. So I called the home healthcare agency and talked to the nurse, that manager, and we talked about the difficulties. Linda and I have a lot of experience in home health. We know the drill. We know, in those situations, how difficult it is, and we know what it's like to have to try and staff a case. So I was very considerate and understanding, but just asked her if she could just do her best. And so she said, I'll call you on Friday by noon and let you know either if it's a go or what we can do. And a lot of people don't realize there is a regulation in Medicare that after the referral comes in, the home healthcare agency really needs to get there within 48 hours. And why that's in place is if you can wait a week or 2 weeks for someone, for a home health to come into your home, do you really need them? And it's hard because staffing may be short, and so there could be a lot of reasons, but the regulations is you need to get into the home within 48 hours of the referral. So that would have been a Sunday. And so this home health care company in the client's area was amazing. They found a physical therapist, which was amazing in itself. Physical therapy, because she really didn't need any nursing care. So she found a physical therapist that was within an hour away, came, did her assessment on a Sunday morning. So they made it within their 48 hours. And then now she's getting therapy and occupational therapy. Our plan B, my plan B, nursing home didn't have a plan B. My plan B was we were going to have to get her set up with outpatient. But the thing is, nothing was set up. And she came home on a Thursday. Saturday, she fell. She fell in the bathroom. It was kind of an uneven floor. She lost her balance, went down. Now, if they would have done a home safety eval, maybe they would have put some strategies, maybe not. There's a lot of what ifs here. So I'm not trying to say, but the fact is they never did the home safety evaluation. But fortunately, I sent her to urgent care. She had x-rays done and there was no damage done to the surgery. So she now has physical therapy, occupational therapy, everything's fine. I met with her, but this is what can go wrong. And people don't realize sometimes the benefits and the advantages of having a nurse advocate, having that nurse advocate in your back pocket, because we can read between the lines. We could see what's supposed to be there, what's not there. All and she was just trusting the healthcare system. We should be able to trust the healthcare system. We should be able to know that they have our best interests at heart. They're looking out for us, but it's just not always the way it is. And so it never hurts to have someone like Linda or myself or another advocate in your back pocket to make sure that, 70% of medication errors occur during a transition. That means maybe going from home to the hospital, back home, going from home to the hospital, the nursing home. And there's each time there's a transition or a change in level of care, there's room for error. Communication gets missed, paperwork doesn't get passed, medications get left off or not put on. And so it's a very delicate situation when our aging loved ones are moving from different levels of care. And so I just wanted to share this today, again, while we're talking about discharging, in general. So if you ever have any questions, reach out to someone, make sure that all the I's are dotted and the T's are crossed, and make sure you have a solid plan. Is home health care coming? Are they not? Do I need to look at outpatient? Who's going to call me? Is the appointment made? Who am I going to hear from? Make sure that you have all of those I's dotted and T's crossed before you leave either a hospital or a nursing home. So that's my story. That's my client story today, how we were able to help, ended up having a client win. So just wanted to make sure. So again, stay tuned for more Tuesday tips. And don't forget to check out our Healthcare Redefined, our podcast, available on all your podcast platforms. And we'll talk to you soon. Take care.